Kayla Buchanan, and welcome to Around the Region. I've got a great show coming up for you guys tonight, including a Colonial Days preview from the border city, a medium, and an optimistic cyclist. But first, I got to play archaeologist for the day at the Bodo Archaeological Center and Site.
Bodo itself as a site was discovered in 1995 when the oil field came through and were putting on a well pad, and they found 2 bison skull just came out with the excavator. And then they called in archaeologists to come take a look, and the rest is history. This area back here, where all the dead grass is, that is called Area 5. We found the remains of 16 bison in it. And you know how big bison are. Can you imagine 16 bison in that one area just piled up on top of one another? That was just a huge amount and definitely would have been a spectacle to see. We also found 62 arrowheads in that site as well, showing that it was definitely a kill site because it's very, very rare to find that many arrowheads in such a small area. So what we've uncovered here is part of the bone bed here at Bodo. The bone bed itself stretches 4 kilometers east-west and 2 kilometers north-south. It's a very big bone bed, and right now we're trying to find the edges of it. In the pit itself, we have uncovered an ulna, which is part of the arm bone, and it's fractured right here. We also have in the corner a piece of the mandible with a couple of the teeth. And then we have a tibia, which is part of the shin bone. That's what makes up our shins. And then we have various other fragments of ribs and other long bones that would have come from the arms and the legs. So what we have in this pit, we have another piece of a mandible. And then we also have, I don't know if you can see it down here, but it's a molar of a bison. So we find them disarticulated all the time. What is really neat about the find in this pit and then the other pit as well is that the bones that we find are ones that wouldn't be worth very much meat-wise. They did all of the processing of the bison on the site, so they would take all the undesirable parts and throw them away, like the hoof and the jaw, all that kind of stuff, because why would you want to transport heavy parts like that when they don't have as much meat in them?
So in 1995, the Pengrove oil field was putting in a pipeline in what would become the Bodo Archaeological Site. And these fragments of bone here were actually the first artifacts that they found. These 2 in the back are fragments of skull, and this here is a part of the shoulder blade. It's thanks to them that we even know that this site exists. In this display case, you can see different examples of projectile points and arrowheads that we have found here at the site, as well as different examples of pottery. There are some Mortlack pieces, as well as old woman's pottery. We never find an intact pot out at the dig site, simply because if it was intact, they would continue to use it. What we find are the broken bits after it has fallen and smashed, say, or was discarded or simply could no longer be used. So this bone here is a bison vertebrae, and you can see the little black dot the arrow is pointing to is actually a broken piece of projectile point that was found lodged inside the bone. And what I always have a fun time imagining is a little arrowhead smaller than your pinky bringing down a bison that weighs quite literally over a ton.
More information on the Bodo Archaeological Center and the summer programs they offer for both kids and adults can be found at bodoarchaeology.com. I want to thank Deanna and Julia for letting me tag along with them all day. I had an absolute blast. And coming up next, the optimistic cyclist rolls into the border city on his campaign for good news. It's 8,000 kilometers from Fairbanks, Alaska to Miami, Florida. And cyclist Chris Gregg is making the trip in 30 days on his campaign for good news, which made its stop in Lloydminster late last week.
It kind of started when I was watching the news one night. It was just getting really ridiculous, some of the things they were showing, and I said, like, why not go on a bike ride where I just show some positive stories from each town I stay in?
This isn't Chris's first big bike ride. In 2009, he cycled solo across Canada in 45 days.
I was raising money for cancer, but I was so pleasantly surprised by stopping in all these towns and everyone being really nice to you and learning stuff about the town, you never heard of and stuff. So I was kind of, with that idea, with the fact that the news is often quite negative and kind of sensationalized and everything else, I said I basically came up with this idea of phoning people up, trying to get some sort of story arranged, and then doing a little video and putting on this website. So that's how it all started.
The good news Chris is collecting is being posted on his site, campaignforgoodnews.org. You can also see his progress in real time via GPS tracking.
It's been pretty good. I'm getting a lot of people to the website. Like, I'm getting over 1,000 people a day checking, new people a day checking where I am on the website, and the stories have been pretty good. I did it all on my own, and you have to call people up and tell them what you're doing, and some people think you're a nut, and some people don't respond. But some people, like the people here, Heather and everything, they're very supportive, and they go out of their way and they organize all this stuff. So, yeah, I think people back at home following are learning something new about each town. Like Lloydminster, they're gonna learn that it's on the border basically, and it's kind of a quirky little fact, right? So it's just fun stuff like that. The first story I did was pretty cool. I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, and they have a baseball game they play on the summer solstice on June 21st, and it starts at 10:30 at night. They have a baseball league in Alaska in the summer that's made up of like the NCAA college players that are all the all-stars, so they're all really good. So people like Barry Bonds have actually played for this team that I was at and everything. Jason Giambi and all these other pros. Anyway, they have this baseball game, and they play through the night without any lights, without any artificial lighting, right? Because the sun's up enough. And so I was there for that, and I rode my bike around the bases during like the 7th inning, and everyone I was waving like this, like a fool. It was pretty funny, right? And so I just interviewed the coach of the team and stuff, and a few players, and just kind of talked about the baseball game. It's like a 110-year-old baseball game. So that was a pretty cool story. That was probably the coolest one, I'd say. Yeah.
Riding several hours a day in the elements can be grueling, even for an optimistic cyclist.
I guess the main challenge is just biking all day long and trying not to get too bored. Sometimes it gets kind of boring. And the other thing is, after I'm done my biking, I have a little laptop with me, and I have to I do all the web updates. Like, it's kind of a completely solo project. I kind of do everything on my own, kind of just to challenge myself and stuff. So I have a little laptop, and I have to upload everything. I have to upload the video, and so this takes time, because sometimes I don't get in until like 9 o'clock. It takes a couple hours, and then I'm getting to bed at like maybe 12 or 1. Then I have to get up by like 5 or 6 maybe, because I have to get on the road to get to the next place. So it just gets tiring after a while. But I guess this is day 14, and I haven't had a break yet. So, and I'm doing pretty good, really. Like, nothing really hurts on my body, permanently or anything like that. So doing pretty good so far.
Chris says he hopes his campaign for good news inspires others to dream big and make a difference in their communities.
I don't know. People say, like, are you going to write a book? But I don't really think so. I think it's kind of just really a one-time little thing for me, Like, I don't do this. This is not like my career or anything, and I don't make any money off of it. It costs a lot of money, right? So after this, I'll just probably go back to work and continue on my merry way, and then maybe a few years down the road, I'll come up with another idea, So that's kind of how it works, yeah.
You're going to want to stay with us. After the break, I sit down for a one-on-one interview with medium Glenyce Hughes.
So just imagine that your angels are coming in.
Glenyce Hughes is a medium and so much more.
I do medium readings where I connect with people who have crossed over and pass on messages and validations to their family and friends so that they know that they're okay and happy and still with them. During a reading, the client will come in and I'll explain what we're going to do, which is basically they sit there quietly and I invite their loved ones in. And it's like their loved ones in spirit play charades with me. They give me little bits and pieces of whatever they can so the person I'm reading for knows who they are. They might show me if they're on their dad's side or their mom's side, or if they're a friend, how many kids they had, what they died from. They can talk about different pictures that were made in honor of them after they crossed, or if there was a memorial garden planted after. They'll just bring anything in so the person knows who they are.
How does it work for you? Do you see a picture in your mind, or?
Various ways. What I do when I do one is I look at the floor, and it's just kind of how they keep my attention. So I let my client know that so they're not wondering what I'm doing. I just stare at the floor, and the spirit is able to give me, sometimes it's pictures, sometimes it's a feeling, especially if they want to give me their personality. Sometimes they'll give me like really harsh and I'll feel like sitting like this and very quiet, or sometimes I'll just get really big smile and feel like I'm really want to laugh and joke, and that'll be their personality. They can show me the pictures, and they might show me what their house looked like, or a picture on the wall, or something that's important to them. They can give me words in my head so that I can hear them. It's not complete sentences, but it'll just be a word here or there, like son or daughter, or the month of June, or something that's relevant to them. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Does it ever scare you contacting the spirit world and having people talk through you? Is it scary for you at all?
Not at all. It's always amazing. Like, because the spirits that I connect with, they are spirits that have went to the light, and they're of the light, and they're just happy to connect. Their vibration, their energy is so high that normally it's just I just feel so good, and it's so powerful to work with them, and then the person that I'm reading for gets that gift also. Yeah, there's nothing scary about it at all.
Do you ever feel exhausted or like really tired after a session?
Not at all, because again, when they come in and I'm connecting with them that closely, I get a part of that energy. So usually I feel extra good after also. The only time that I might feel exhausted or might feel a little bit after is for the person that I'm reading for. Because yeah, it's fabulous to have that connection and have those validations, but it doesn't bring that person back in human form. So there's still that, they still walk out of here. Yes, there's joy in their heart, and there's still sadness because physically their loved one isn't there. And as wonderful as they are to leave signs and to have that connection and come in our dreams, the physical connection is still something that we will likely always miss.
Do you ever feel a pressure to get things right for the clients in a reading?
Yes, I do. Because it can be, especially for people in what I would call the early stages of grief, it is very important for them to know that they have the connection with who they want to. I just have high expectations, so yeah, getting it right is important.
Are you able to turn it on and off, or what is it like when you're out in a crowd? Do you have a whole bunch of spirits trying to contact you and talk to you?
I do have what I call very strong boundaries with the spirit world, that they know that they are not allowed to bother me unless I'm doing a reading. And that's the other part of why I look at the floor, because, just sitting here looking at you, I wouldn't connect with anybody for you. It's not, in a sense, turned on like you asked. It's about me inviting them in.
And can we talk a little bit about the skeptics? What would you say to somebody who maybe wasn't a believer?
I just let them choose. I have no desire, ever have I had a desire to change somebody's point of view. I've seen people where they go into reading mode to kind of force that person in to believe, and I don't. It doesn't matter to me. If the person is a skeptic, cool. I have no desire to defend what I do. And I've had a few, very, very few, I think only 2 people, where it kind of had a really strong point of view about what I did, and I just let them have it. You know, it's if I were to react to it or defend it, that's when, to me, the energies get mingled. So if somebody doesn't believe, that's great. It would be the same as I don't want them to convince me otherwise. So I just let them believe it. And it's not something, you know, skeptics don't ever come to my business, because they're not going to, you know, come and have a session or book a session as a skeptic. There's certainly people that are maybe in the questioning or the curiosity, like, really, can this happen? That, I see a lot of that, that's fine. But the actual skeptics where there's no way this happens, that's, you know, that's a crock, that sort of stuff, I don't interact with them, and I wouldn't change their mind. I have no desire.
Find out how Glenyce discovered her gift for communicating with those who've passed when we come back. Before the break, you met Glenyce, a medium, and so much more.
Do you feel like you were born with this ability?
I don't. It's actually a really interesting story. And when I was 30, just before I turned 30, I was really unhappy in the work that I was doing. And I was, my background is psychiatric nursing. So I was working as a psychiatric nurse, and I went to see a psychic in January of that year of 2002. She had just set up a web page, so she'd given me her card when I left, and I went on it just to snoop around. And on there was a link to her newsletter, so I was reading her newsletter, and in her newsletter was a book review. And her book, the woman's book that she was reviewing, was teaching Reiki in March of that year. Now this was only the second time I'd heard of Reiki, and something from somewhere, I mean, now I can tell that it was my angels, but at the time I didn't know what. I just signed up for this Reiki course. It made no sense whatsoever because I didn't really know what it was. That was January, I just signed up, just boom, like that. And then in August of that year, I was doing Reiki on a friend of mine. I'd done Reiki on her many times before. This wasn't any different, or so I thought. Through the books I was reading and using Reiki, I taught myself how to read the energy of the body. And she knew I was still playing around with it, but she said, you know, I've had stomach problems. Can you find out what's going on? So I said, sure, absolutely. And so I had her be really quiet while she was on the table and was doing Reiki on her. And with intuition or psychic skills or whatever people want to call them, basically that little chatter mind of ours has to be busy. Otherwise, all the doubt will come in, or, you know, you're just making that up, you're being silly. Those sorts of thoughts will come in. So I had trained myself how to do that back then with multiplication tables. So what I was doing while I was doing the Reiki on her was multiplication tables in my head, because I'm really bad at math and it takes a lot of focus for me to do that. And so she was laying there doing that. I was doing multiplication tables in my head, and kind of in popped, "Tell her I love her." And I thought it was me. Like, it wasn't a different voice. It wasn't some big booming voice. It was my usual voice in my head, except I was doing multiplication tables and suddenly it's tell her I love her. And finally in my mind, seriously not having any clue what it was, I just thought to myself, what is going on? And then I just had a really strong knowing. In the psychic world, it's called claircognizance, psychic knowing. And I just knew her friend was with us. I just knew it. It was just like a no. I had to put $1 million on it. And even though I didn't want to, it was like he was there. He was so strong. So I said to her, and her and I talk about this to this day because it was just so funny after the fact. So she's laying there waiting for me to predict what was wrong with her stomach. And I say to her, the clearest thing that can come out of my mouth is, I need to tell you something, but you can't kick me out when I tell you. And she sat straight up. She's like, I've got cancer. I knew it. I'm like, oh, no, your stomach. Oh, I said, I don't know about your stomach. I said, lay down. Just, just bear with me. I don't know how to do this, but just here's what's going on. And I told her it was something I had to kind of come to terms with and had to know that that was something, because it can be a really intense job to do. You know, there's a lot of people that are really in pain because of losses or suicides or tragedies, or even if it was great grandma that crossed when she was 104, we still miss them, you know, so it can be. But looking back now, I think a lot of the reason I was so drawn to psychiatric nursing was it gave me a lot of that. You know, we had to go through grief counseling and learn how to do that. And so it's such a big part of that it's really easy for me. And because the spirit world, the spirits that I connect with, the loved ones on the other side, every one of them is happy. Every one of them is joyful. They're just thrilled with, you know, having the connection with their loved one, being able to pass on the messages, showing them the pennies are from them, or every time they walk into their bedroom and the closet door's open and darn it, they knew they closed, you know, had that door closed or whatever, you know, be able to validate that even in the harshest of circumstances. You know, I think in what I've seen is probably parents that have lost children. The harshest of that, working with them and those children coming through for mom and dad, there is, even if it's only brief in that time that I'm with them and their loved one is there, their child is there, there is joy, you know, to have that connection, have that validation, and know that they are there, and the signs that they are giving, and it's very, very powerful. So no, I wasn't born with it. As far as I know, I had what I joke as a normal life prior to being 30, and I wouldn't change it now for anything.
More information on Glenyce Hughes and all the services she offers can be found online at glenyce.net. After the break, I have the full preview of Colonial Days from the Border City. Colonial Days 2012 officially kicked off today in the Border City. Awesome concerts, agriculture shows, chuck races, and the Midway are some of the great events going on at this year's fair.
People are very excited that the fair's in town. They're ready to have fun, to have a good time, to get on all the rides, and of course to eat all the great food.
Well, I won them and I kind of felt bad for him. I won the snake. No, I won the Pupper Smurf.
Yeah, he won this and I won this. He's just...
I'm amazing at basketball.
It was this duck one and... Basketball? Yeah, basketball.
I don't want to braid, but I'm pretty amazing.
I think it looks like they have a lot more rides than last year, and they've got cool rides this year too. I'm here to check it out. I want to make sure they have the good food, like the elephant ears. I want to make sure they've got the good rides, like the bumper cars, and they're here. So I'm set. I've been told to check out the Hot Shot, but I think I'm going to stick to, you know, the classics, the Ferris wheel, the bumper cars.
The parade signaled the start of the festivities, just like it has for over 100 years. The theme celebrated the 20th anniversary of the CPCA Chuckwagon Finals. You can enjoy 4 days of fun before the fair wraps up on Saturday with a fireworks display.
Exclamation mark for awesome.
And that's been our show for tonight. Questions, comments, or story ideas can be sent to me at aroundtheregion@newcap.ca, through our Facebook page or our Twitter. I'm Kayla Buchanan. Thanks for watching and have a great night.